Good evening, I'm meteorologist Kit Thomas here in the Weather Center at ABC 24. We have a severe thunderstorm warning. We're jumping on stream this evening. Not immediately threatening the core part of our viewing area, so we're on stream. But if we do see this expand into the metro, we might actually need to go on air. So just to give you a quick synopsis of what's been going on today, we've had a long line of thunderstorms way off to the north, wave after wave of heavy rainfall and some good rain. We need the rain, but it's all kind of coming down at once, so it might cause some flooding. And we do have the chance for some severe weather as well. Let's take a look into some of our northern Arkansas viewing area here. Right here, we've got that current severe thunderstorm warning that's just started to move into our viewing area south of the Jonesboro area into Poinsett County, and also includes parts of Mississippi and Crittenden County there. So around the Turl area is included within this severe thunderstorm warning. Getting that info on the screen for you here. This is for the chance for some pretty strong winds and possibly some hail in there as well. But the hail isn't really expected to be quite to the severe limits. It's predominantly for the 60-mile-per-hour winds. This is until 7:45, so we've got about 40 minutes with this thunderstorm rolling through. One note from the National Weather Service is they've actually drawn this a little longer, more forward motion with it than some of the other warnings we've seen across northern Arkansas today. They're picking up on the rear inflow jet, basically the gust of wind that's in the rear flank of this thunderstorm. It's pushing in much quicker and accelerating the forward motion of that storm. So that's why it's a little bit larger than that. So that does bring it all the way up to the Interstate 55 corridor, as well as the 555 corridor there. So a couple of areas right along here is where we could see initially along 555 and eventually to 55 between Turl and Osceola. So I'm going to clear that off and just get real deep in the weeds of where this storm is going to be impacting here very soon. So Truman down 463 to Mark Tree. You're up next to see this line of thunderstorms rolling through here fairly soon. Could be packing quite a punch. I know there's not a ton of trees out here, but trees are probably going to get the brunt of the damage. Smaller limbs, larger branches probably going to be snapped by some of these strong winds. In fact, let's switch things over to the velocity as this is starting to come into our viewing area here. So Truman, Arkansas, we're seeing some of those higher winds up elevated. They're not quite to severe limits here on the actual radar site. If we pick out some of the hottest pixels in here, it's looking like inbound winds around 50 miles per hour. But as we said yesterday, because we had some severe thunderstorms yesterday, these kinds of winds can slam into the ground and accelerate as they make that impact. So that's certainly something that they're looking at the National Weather Service, which could be leading to their issuance of this severe thunderstorm warning here recently. Overall, it's pretty quiet here across the metro of Memphis. We really haven't seen much action today, as we've just seen some scattered showers early in the afternoon. And we haven't really seen much in the way of any thunderstorms. But this storm coming in, notice how it sort of has this tail on it. It's got this southern extent. This may still develop and move towards our area here in the Memphis metro, though I think the core of this storm is going to be moving more towards Millington, maybe towards Summerville, if it can hold itself together that long. And clear up some of the drawing. We'll get some forward motion on this. Need to check what heading they've put on the storm. It's moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. So if I draw forward a line of where that storm is moving at 35 miles per hour, we'll just draw it through the warning box initially here. So it's getting into the Cassidy area fairly soon in the next few minutes here by around 7:10 or so. Marked Tree, we're looking around 7:20 for your area. The Beasley area by around 7:30. Gilmore by around 7:40. And Turl right at the end of the warning, but I could see that maybe reissued right there at 7:45. So certainly an area to keep watch. But as we go forward from here, I'm going to redraw that and push it forward to the Memphis area just to see if it gets into this area. Again, this is a very narrow slice. It could still turn either left or right, but eventually getting to the Shelby Forest area, maybe by around 8:04, Millington by around 8:15. It's actually where the radar site is. Wolf Chase might see some impacts of this by around 8:30, and assuming that it holds together, it'll be down there to the I-40 corridor, probably around 8:30, 8:35 or so. I want to look at the velocity scans with these storms as well, as they've started to push in over the last few minutes, still with some pretty decent motion. If we get this here, this is actually storm motion, storm relative. This is subtracting out its forward motion, so I need to switch it back over to the proper winds here. So there we go. We can see around the Truman, Arkansas, already starting to see some of those stronger wind gusts in that area. You can see some of those local roads popping up on there as well. If we just get a sample of some of those winds right there along the interstate, possibly 45 to 50 mile per hour winds right around in this area. So certainly the thing that we've got to keep in mind, as I mentioned, these are elevated winds. So these are maybe a few hundred, maybe 1,500 feet above the surface. Once that air reaches the ground, that's when it's going to slam into the surface and possibly bring some significant winds to the surface. So we've got to keep that in mind here as well. Overall, though, I'll go through and name some places where we aren't really seeing any rainfall. So places like Forest City, south of I-40. If you're south of I-40 at this point, you're in the clear for now. Only concern being once we get into western Tennessee with this wave of thunderstorms, that may begin to bring some other significant threats there. So we'll have to keep that in mind. But northern Mississippi, pretty quiet right now, not a lick of rain at the moment. And south of I-40 into Arkansas is also quiet, though we may still see that change as we get into the later part of the evening as some of these thunderstorms right along this boundary. We've got a stationary boundary here. This is going to be moving slightly south and east over the next couple of hours, so that may still bring more of that heavy rainfall to the I-40 corridor and possibly points south as well. So overall, we're keeping a close eye on things. Chief Meteorologist Trevor Burchett is also in here this evening, keeping a close eye on things with me as well. Trevor, I want to bring you in here as well, as we've got a bunch of things going on along that line of thunderstorms. We've been waiting for them to start getting a little more aggressive. They're just arriving in our viewing area as well.
Yeah, and Kit, I think it might be a pretty narrow window of time where they might be rowdy for a couple of hours, and then they're going to lose a little bit of that storm energy. Of course, we've been talking about the potential for strong storms today. A lot of that has been back into northwestern Arkansas. Actually, what I want to do here is just kind of zoom back out and show you the bigger picture. Kit was just doing a great job talking about that stationary boundary that's kind of hung up right over the Mid-South, and that's what's producing all of these thunderstorms back here. It's almost acting like a train track for those thunderstorms to kind of roll along, and it is producing some heavy rain, and we do have several severe thunderstorm warnings with these batches of storms, mainly for the high wind gust and the hail. So we're going to be watching this for the next little bit. I would say by 10 o'clock, these will start to lose a little bit of their intensity. Now, we could still be hearing some loud thunder overnight, some heavy rain, but I think by the time these start to get into metro Memphis and especially North Mississippi, they're going to lose a lot of their energy there, even though we could still see some heavy rain and certainly some high wind gusts. So I just want to kind of give you the bigger picture of things as we're watching these storms coming out of Arkansas. They are strong right now, severe in some cases, but I do think here over the next several hours, we're going to start to see those come down a little bit in intensity. I want to zoom back in and just kind of give you a closer look at the Memphis Mid-South area. North Mississippi, of course, totally quiet. West Tennessee had some storms earlier, but for right now, things are looking pretty calm and pretty quiet there. We do have some showers in Lauderdale County. Looks like maybe a sprinkle or two not far from Millington, but mainly lighter rain in West Tennessee. And we are watching this bigger thunderstorm. The one that we have a warning on is in Poinsett County, Craighead County, Northern Cross County. That's going to be moving to the east, maybe a little bit to the south and east. And that is the storm that's producing some high wind gusts and maybe some thunder and lightning right now. We're watching a few more storms behind that. But again, as these all continue east and as time goes on, I think they'll lose a lot of their intensity. And while they could still be heavy, I don't expect storms to be necessarily severe as we get further into the overnight hours. So again, this is kind of the one game we have in town, the one storm we're watching that is severe right now. And as Kit was mentioning to you, this is a severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued. And that is going to include Craighead, Crittenden, Poinsett, and Mississippi counties until 7:45. It does include Harrisburg, but that storm is passing Harrisburg now. There's another one behind you. You see this next storm coming up. It's got that backward C shape, a good indication of some high wind gusts. So we'll watch that for the next little bit as it moves to the east, but definitely a strong thunderstorm here through Poinsett County and southern Craighead County. That's going to be moving to the south and east, eventually into southern Mississippi County, Arkansas, and northern Crittenden County. Now, as we were just talking about a little bit ago, these storms are going to weaken as time goes on. As we get further into the night, the severe weather potential will go down. And just to remind you, technically the definition of a severe thunderstorm is winds of 58 miles an hour or higher, or 1-inch hail. So just because a storm is not severe doesn't mean it can't pack a little bit of a punch. But typically we consider that 58-mile-an-hour threshold and 1-inch hail threshold to be a damaging storm that is in need of a severe thunderstorm warning. So I expect that we will see less of that criteria as we get further into the night. I don't expect too many warnings while we're sleeping for high winds, but I do think we could still have some heavy rain and some loud claps of thunder while you're sleeping. The National Weather Service already saying this storm might be coming down a notch or two in its intensity, but even though it might drop below severe limits and it might not need a warning anymore, it is still going to be packing a punch. It's still going to be producing heavy rain and potentially some high wind gusts. So I do want to track it out. It's moving to the east, a little bit of southeast at about 35 miles an hour. So just to track this storm here, get a little bit of a better draw on that. Didn't do it quite as well as I wanted to. But as we track that out here, and again, Kit just did this, but just as another track here, 7:19 into Mark Tree. That's pretty much right now. Kaiser at 7:39, Osceola at 7:50, Clarkdale at 7:58, Jericho at 8:02, Shelby Forest, that's coming into Shelby County by about 8:09, Millington at 8:21, and then Covington at 8:24. So this thing will be crossing the river likely by about 8 o'clock. And again, like we said, I do expect it to lose a little bit of its juice, but as it comes into West Tennessee, it's still going to be a heavy thunderstorm, still going to be a loud thunderstorm, more likely than not. As we switch out to our lightning mode, turn some of that on here, our number of strikes just in the last 10 minutes or so, almost 500 strikes between these two thunderstorms. So these are going to be loud, these are going to be noisy storms, heavy rain potential, no doubt about it, but they should lose some of their damaging wind potential as the night continues to go on. I'll put a lapse on this just over about the last hour to show you how that storm is moving. And again, we told you during the 6 o'clock news as it came through Jonesboro, this was going to be a storm to watch as it produces some high wind gusts, heavy rain, and again, some thunder and lightning. That thing's going to come across the river again within about the next 45 minutes or so. And it will pack a punch, heavy rain, gusty winds. I would not be traveling right now on I-55 between, I would say even Marion and Blytheville, anywhere in that stretch. That's where this thunderstorm is going to be crossing over in the next 30 to 45 minutes. And then, of course, across the river, once it gets past that into northern Shelby County, Tipton County, and Lauderdale County. But definitely a heavy thunderstorm here, and it is producing for sure some high wind gusts, at least for right now. We'll see if those winds come down a little bit and if they come down enough to see that warning canceled. Again, severe thunderstorm warning for Poinsett, northern Crittenden, Mississippi, and Craighead County. And I believe that is until 7:45. Let me double check that. 7:45 is when this warning goes to. I'll tell you what, though, the one thing about the fall, and it is officially the first week of fall, the sun is starting to set a little bit sooner. So I do want to get a check of our Midtown camera, see if we can see any of that lightning so far. They are going to cancel this severe thunderstorm warning. They're going to let that one go as the storm is not really showing signs of incredibly high wind gust as it did maybe a little bit ago. It was definitely gustier back when it was maybe a little closer to the west side of Harrisburg, the west side of Jonesboro. Now, again, they're going to let this warning go. They're canceling the severe thunderstorm warning. But like I told you earlier, the limit for a warning is 58-mile-an-hour winds. So this thing could still be packing winds of 50 to 55 miles an hour, and it wouldn't need that warning. So I don't want you to think just because the warning's canceled that the storm is going away. It's still going to pack a punch as it moves toward the south and east. Hopefully it will continue to weaken, but if you're in eastern Poinsett, up in northern Crittenden, up toward Turrell, and then along 55 up to Blytheville, definitely still a heavy thunderstorm that is headed your way. I want to check out that Midtown camera, and then we'll check back in with meteorologist Kit Thomas here in just a little bit. I know he's been checking out some of those wind speeds as well, just to get a little bit of a better idea. But I'm going to try to pan this camera around just a little bit. It might be a little bit too far away to see right now, but I figure it's worth a shot while we're here on the stream. So this is a live look from our Midtown camera in Memphis. This is at the Southern College of Optometry. So there you see downtown Memphis. There's the bridge and the skyline here. So we're looking east, northeast, west, northwest, I should say. We'll swing that camera around just a little bit more to just about northwest, and not seeing any lightning quite yet, but you can almost make out what seems like maybe an outflow or maybe the base of that thunderstorm in that area, just a faint line in the sky there. And if you were with us last night, an outflow is typically a sign that the storm might be losing some intensity. The wind kind of gets out ahead of it, and it almost cuts the storm off from its energy. So if that's the case, that is probably why that storm is weakening. We're going to watch this and just see if there is any lightning that pops up. Of course, Memphis and Midtown, totally quiet. Traffic on 240 and Madison doing just fine. No issues there. There was a little bit of lightning. Finally, looks like we might need to swing around just a little bit more here. We'll swing more off to the northeast. This will probably give us a better view of where this thunderstorm is. So again, if you're just joining us, we did have a severe thunderstorm warning that was for Crittenden, Mississippi, Poinsett counties. Got a pretty rough storm near Harrisburg, Arkansas, and it's moving east. It's going to be moving into places like Turrell, Arkansas, Clarkdale, Truman, Osceola, Blytheville in the next little bit. So that warning has been allowed to expire. It's been canceled. The storm showing some signs of weakening, but still likely a strong thunderstorm as it's moving to the east. So we'll watch that. We'll keep an eye on that. But for now, I'll send things back over to meteorologist Kit Thomas. And Kit, again, like we said, there's no warning on this storm, but you can see the radar is still lighting up. And as that thing gets closer to the river, it is still going to pack a punch until it does finally fall apart.
Yeah, and these thunderstorms are pretty much on track with some of the models that we've seen of where they're going to be, but some models are a little behind. They're putting it much later in the area where we're seeing them. So still an area where we could have more thunderstorms reaching the Memphis area as we get into the evening time frame. So of course, I think what Trevor was looking at, that little outflow boundary, very astutely picked out there, is right here just north of the metro. You can see that sort of northern line of green that's moving south. That's what the outflow is from thunderstorms we've seen earlier. And that cold air that's undercutting the warm air is actually sparking off a few more showers around Tipton County, northern Shelby County, and Haywood County as well, and up towards Lauderdale County as well. So all of these thunderstorms can sometimes die out and then spark off new ones later on. So we've got to keep a close eye on how these storms interact with the environment. As we're seeing out towards around the West Memphis area, more towards Marion, a new fresh showers just sparking up right along that outflow. And that might actually be the stationary boundary sort of moving south, or it might eventually pull it south. So that's where we could see more thunderstorms developing here over the next several minutes, several hours this evening. I want to take you through the models that, at least the one model that has it a little closer to reality. If we just back this up to the start here, you see that we have some thunderstorms, but they're just north of where the model, or of where the radar actually is picking up on them. As we get into the 10 o'clock time frame, that boundary is still sliding south just slowly enough to spark off a few more thunderstorms south of the I-40 corridor. And then as we get into the overnight time frame, the wee hours of the morning, things are wrapping up for the severe characteristics that we still have some stronger storms back in Arkansas. I think most of us shall remain clear. But as we get into tomorrow, as we're waking up on Wednesday, getting out the door, getting things ready to go, it looks like we might have another round of some thunderstorms in that area. This now is beyond the end of this particular model, so I'm going to switch things over to this one here. Again, this one is a couple hours late. It's putting this around 2 a.m. where we have those current thunderstorms. So I'm going to verbalize this might be around 11 o'clock. We would see a situation like this around the Memphis area, maybe western Tennessee, and then our southwestern Arkansas communities could see those thunderstorms maybe by around midnight if this model's only error is on the timing of it. Some of the placement might be off as well. But as we go forward into our Wednesday, we'll see some pop-up showers maybe by early morning to the late morning time frame. Then as we get into the afternoon, we've got a little more breaks in those clouds. You see right there around 2 o'clock, Shelby County in full sun. That's going to destabilize the atmosphere, and that may spark off a few more thunderstorms or just provide enough energy for some late afternoon convection. So as we go to around 4 o'clock, we've still got some of those thunderstorms around the area. Tomorrow does look like a weaker setup, but this is actually when the cold front is arriving, so that could help some of these thunderstorms spark off in the afternoon. As we get into our Thursday and Friday, though, it looks like things really start to dry up as we go through our Thursday evening. Still a couple of pop-up showers, but overall, things really quiet down after tomorrow. So I want to look at the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today and for tomorrow. We've got a level 2 threat across some of our Arkansas communities. There's a level 3 threat back to the west around the Ozarks to I-40 and into Oklahoma. We're right on the edge of that level 2, mostly just the level 1. Then tomorrow, all of us are under that level 1 threat. So it's not going to be a very widespread threat, but there could still be maybe 1 or 2 thunderstorms that get a little more aggressive and could have some more severe characteristics we'll have to keep our attention on. Overall, though, we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings in place, though we do have a special weather statement, just basically a notice of, yes, this is a strong storm. Like Trevor was saying a minute ago, these storms can still produce 50-mile-per-hour winds, which can still do some damage, but it doesn't look like they've really kept up with the strength that would keep it up to that severe threshold. If we look at this over the last 30 minutes only, we see just coming south of the Jonesboro area to about Mark Tree, the brighter greens, which are faster winds on our color table there, they're just not showing up anymore, and that's why they allowed it to cancel. I do want to bring back in Chief Meteorologist Trevor Burchett, though, and see if we have any new information from the National Weather Service.
Yeah, nothing new necessarily from the National Weather Service other than what you were just talking about. They have that special weather statement out, which is pretty much saying, hey, this is a strong storm, not strong enough for any kind of warning. So we don't have any warnings in effect, no watches in effect. This storm, though, in northeast Arkansas is still very much so packing a punch. Nothing insanely crazy, nothing we haven't seen before, right? But it is definitely producing heavy rain, high wind gust, maybe on the order of 40 miles an hour or so, and some thunder and lightning. I was just checking out some of the Arkansas cameras there at about the Painway exit. That's not far from Truman as you're headed up 555 toward Jonesboro. Definitely some heavy rain. Folks driving very slow up 555, but that storm is going to be cutting across 55 as well through Mississippi County. That's kind of the next in line is Mississippi County. And I know you had some storms earlier. This one probably a little bit beefier. And then northern Crittenden County as well. Eventually, depending on how well this holds together, we could be seeing some of those same threats into northern Shelby County and Tipton County as well, mainly with the very heavy rain and the thunder and lightning. In fact, as we switch over to the lightning mode, you can see not only this storm, but there are almost several thunderstorms back in Arkansas, and these are following that front we were talking about. There's a stationary front stuck right over the area, and storms are just kind of using it as a train track here. So we've got this first storm that's coming through Poinsett County and Mississippi County. Another one not far behind it. I think this one might hit more of Cross County, Cherry Valley down to Wynn. Heavy rain, high wind gusts there. Another storm north of Little Rock, not far from Mayflower, and then more storms along Interstate 40 back to the north and west of Little Rock. So there are going to be several storms that kind of follow this path into the Mid-South over the next several hours and then overnight tonight. This will start to wrap up here, at least the severe weather potential within a few hours, but we will still see heavy rain and some storms overnight. And then as those die out, it'll give way to another round of storms tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. But I do want to keep an update here on these thunderstorms. A ton of lightning with these as this is getting ready to cut into Mississippi County. I want to track both of these out here because we've got this one that's just coming into Cross County and this storm here coming into Mississippi County. Both of these moving to the east, maybe a little southeast at about 30 to 35 miles an hour. So we'll time this one out here. Again, assuming it holds its intensity, this would be near Osceola and crossing I-55 at 8:01. So if you're one of those folks that leaves out of West Memphis, leaves out of Memphis and heads to the north toward Blytheville, maybe Caruthersville, St. Louis, That's going to be crossing I-55 right about 8 o'clock, maybe even a little before that. I'd say maybe even closer to about 7:45, 7:50. That's when that highest gust of wind will be crossing I-55. So I would try to stay off of 55 for right now, especially between Turl and Blytheville, because that's where that storm's going to be crossing. Shelby Forest at 8:27, Covington at 8:42, Fraser at 8:55, Bartlett by 9:11. So again, we could be seeing this into the far northern portions of Shelby County by about 9 o'clock, maybe a little bit after that. Nothing severe at the moment. I want to reiterate, there's nothing to get too worked up about, but this is going to impact your plans. If you're doing something outside, this storm is going to slow you down just a little bit. Very heavy rain and some thunder and lightning that's going to be crossing into Mississippi County and then eventually into West Tennessee in the next little bit. So that's storm 1. We also have storm 2. That's this little guy back here, just about to come into Cross County. This one has maybe a slightly stronger wind signature. That would be into wind by about 8:08. Parkin at 8:25. Earl at 8:36, and then Turl, Arkansas by about 9 o'clock. So that one could be coming a little closer to the Memphis Metro, which is right down here behind that 24 logo, by about 9:15 or so. So we're going to have some storms likely a little closer to Memphis by about that time frame, just after 9 p.m. Heavy rain, lightning, the biggest concerns with these, but could certainly see some high wind gusts on the order of 40 to 50 miles an hour. Now, again, Kit was kind of talking about this. This is coming in a little sooner than many models had anticipated. This is what most models were showing to be happening at 10 o'clock. So this is happening at 7:30. That might mean these storms get out of here a little sooner in the overnight hours, maybe closer to 11 or midnight. These storms start to wrap up for the night, maybe some sprinkles while you're sleeping. But there will be more storms tomorrow afternoon and then into tomorrow evening as well, as Kit was talking about that front kind of making its way through. I want to go back out live to the Midtown camera. We've pointed it to the north and west toward that storm in Arkansas, and I would imagine you saw a little cloud to ground strike right there beneath the base of that thunderstorm. So even from this far away, this is on top of the Southern College of Optometry in Midtown, that brown building right there off the interstate. Even from this far away, we can see a little bit up under that storm, enough to see the lightning that's coming down there. So we'll just watch this for the next little bit and see exactly how much lightning is happening. But again, a very strong thunderstorm. And when you see that much lightning, it's definitely an indication that this storm is at least maintaining its strength. Now, they are starting to show some signs of that bow echo signature, that backwards C shape, the comma shape, whatever you want to call it. That's an indication of those storms rushing the wind in from behind, and it could be picking up its wind just a little bit more. There's not a warning on it right now, but it could be picking up its wind just a little bit. So what we'll do, we'll zoom on in here, go over to the wind mode. And yeah, for sure, you see some of those brighter colors in here. So we're now looking at the wind inside of the storm. The colors just determine which way the winds are going. In this case, this is all straight line wind, all green within the storm. That means those winds are all blowing in one direction. Some inflow wind out ahead of this. That's the red that you're seeing. Nothing at all to indicate any type of a tornado concern right now. I know sometimes you see those reds and greens. It gets a little alarming, but no tornado concern out of this right now. This is all a straight line wind situation. And where those brighter greens are showing up, right on the edge of that storm, especially right there with that latest scan that just came around, right coming into Mississippi County, I would not be surprised if they reissue this warning here, because it seems like this storm is starting to ramp up just a little bit more. So this will be coming into Kaiser here soon, at least the indication of the highest winds. So there's 136 north of Lepanto, 14, Arkansas 14 as it cuts over to I-55 there. This is where the highest winds are right now, and that's going to be crossing I-55 very shortly. So we're talking winds on the order of probably 50 miles an hour right now. And as that cuts across I-55, that is going to cause some issues on the interstate for sure, at least with traffic. So again, try to avoid 55 right now. North of Turl, Arkansas, south of Blytheville, that's where the worst of this storm is headed. Very high wind gusts in here. I'll actually query around just a little bit. Now, these are going to be radar estimates. What's that, 58? So yeah, so we're getting close to severe limits here for them to reissue that severe thunderstorm warning. Now, bear in mind, we're looking pretty high up in the storm. Of course, the earth is curved, So the radar shoots straight out. Eventually, the radar starts looking higher and higher into the storm. So while the winds might be 60 miles an hour in the cloud, they might only be 45 to 50 on the ground, which is still intense. But what we're seeing here is further up in the storm as that radar beam is shooting well above the ground. But we'll take that into consideration and still want to estimate, as Kit was saying, 57, 58 miles an hour, very close here to them reissuing that severe thunderstorm warning, more likely than not. And again, I mean, even right there, really showing more indications of even some blues showing up. So I would say within a matter of moments, and there they go, severe thunderstorm warning. So, I mean, we're getting indications here of 65, 66 miles an hour within this thunderstorm, and that's about to cross Interstate 55 in Mississippi County, Arkansas. So a very, very intense storm. This could be its last hurrah. Sometimes the winds pick up very quickly as the storm is starting to weaken a little bit, but this could be with us here for the next little bit. So that's the area we were focusing on. Again, this is going to cross I-55 north of Turl, not far from Osceola. Very high winds right in that area. The whole storm is strong, but it's that little zone right in there that's going to cut across 55 north of Turl, south of Osceola, that by far has the highest wind gusts. So the National Weather Service is drawing up that severe thunderstorm warning right now. It takes them a minute. They actually have to go on a screen and draw that little box that we see. So as soon as they tell us they're going to issue it, it still takes them a little bit to actually draw the box out. But this is probably going to include Mississippi County into Tipton County, possibly even northern Shelby County. Now, typically, we would go on TV for that, but I do see that Dancing with the Stars is on right now, so we are not going to do that, even though this does include a portion of Shelby County. And yes, it does, far northern Shelby County. But you see that new polygon there, mainly Mississippi County into Tipton County is what that severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for. And again, we're going to stay right here on the stream. If you're watching on TV as well, we will not cut into your Dancing with the Stars. Don't want to deal with the angry phone calls today, but we do have the banner up now on the screen letting people know they can watch our coverage here as well. But I would, again, say 55 north of Turl, south of Osceola. That's the zone that has the highest wind gusts. We'll go back over to meteorologist Kit Thomas. Kit, if you want to talk a little bit about this new warning, maybe get us a new storm track, but for sure, a very strong storm still holding its intensity.
Yeah, and this is something that they had mentioned earlier of these storms do have the potential to cycle.
Correct.
Or re-strengthen after they've kind of weakened after a little bit. So definitely seeing that now with this thunderstorm. You see that bright blue dot right there within the field of green. That's where we're seeing the strongest severe winds. I've got my color table here set up so that you can see exactly when it switches from sub-severe to severe. And it's looking like we've got some decently strong winds. I was also looking, these are winds at about 1,800 feet. So that's a little more than a quarter mile. So it is still pretty elevated, but those winds are more and more likely to translate to the surface as we see stronger winds within the core. Now it's getting up to near 70 miles per hour within the core. That is more and more likely to reach the surface as 58 plus miles per hour. So certainly an area of stronger winds as that rear inflow jet is really starting to punch forward into the forward flank of this storm. So whenever we say rear inflow jet, you can kind of tell a little more easily on velocity right now, not so much on reflectivity, but you can tell if I draw a little line here, you can see how it curves forward. That's basically because we've got those strong winds coming in from the rear of the storm, pushing it forward. If we had started initially with a straight line, it looks very much like a bow, right? So that's what we call a bow echo whenever we start to see those thunderstorms have some rear winds that push it forward and it accelerates it. And that's what leads to these more extreme winds right there. That's right around the Dias area. So National Weather Service estimating on radar that 60 knot winds, right about 70 miles per hour, are entering Dias. So we might actually see this severe thunderstorm warning upgraded to considerable tag, meaning that we've got stronger winds possibly 70 to 75 miles per hour up towards that range. This is just an extra tier on severe thunderstorm warning. You still behave the same way, staying indoors, staying away from windows and exterior walls. But this is right over the Dias area, so hopefully if you know anyone there or if you live there yourself, let them know if you know them, or go ahead and get to shelter with yourself. One good thing is you can put us on your phone. You can get our ABC 24 app and take that with you to your shelter. If you're watching us on the television, you can shelter with that information there for you as well. So it's certainly something we want to keep you informed of. This is likely to move towards the Golden Lake Joyner area, maybe even towards Atoka even. That's a little far, but I'll go ahead and put that track forward on this. And I'm going to leave it up right there on those that velocity view so we can track it out directly forward from there for the next 45 minutes or so. So Golden Lake, I mentioned, around 7:50, 7:55 is probably when you're going to see those strong winds hitting your area. And the thing is, this storm is not really gusting itself out. We've mentioned a couple of times where you see that gust front, the outflow of the storm, it's the exhale. We haven't seen that with this storm yet, and it's still very organized. So you're going to feel the winds hit and quickly ramp up and get to that severe threshold there. So getting on with some of these areas here, Bassett probably within the next few minutes here, by around 7:45, 7:47 or so. Del Pro by 7:50. The Richardson's area just after 8 o'clock. Drummond's, I had mentioned a moment ago, around 8:10. Eventually to Gilt Edge, possibly in your area around 8:15. Eventually Atoka, probably around 8:15, 8:20 or so. This could still accelerate though, as sometimes when we have that rear inflow jet, it can push it forward more. As it's sort of bowing forward, it arrives sooner. So in your head, subtract about 5, even 10 minutes from that arrival time, and it could be in your area very soon. One thing we're seeing with it is that it has started to drop down some of those areas. It's not quite as large of an area of severe winds. That's good news. Maybe it's starting to cycle itself out, but it may be starting to spread out. And one thing we see with severe wind gusts is they start off from one direction and then they begin to split and fan out, covering more areas with that severe wind damage. So it's certainly something to keep in mind that we could see more people right along that I-55 corridor there towards the Marie, towards Golden Lake. More of you could see those severe wind gusts. And sometimes it'll get back down to a single one and then it'll fan out again. So we can see multiple waves of these wind gusts that are above severe and then it dies back, above severe and then it dies back. So it could be that cyclical nature, as we've mentioned, of that severe thunderstorm that continues over the next several minutes here. So for those of us joining just now, I want to get a wider view on the radar here. Is just what we're looking at this evening is a severe weather threat across parts of Arkansas, just now moving into the Memphis metro as well. So I want to get a look at the satellite and radar view from the region, as we've got this whole area under threat for severe weather this evening. It's not just here in Arkansas, but we've also seen it excuse me, I choked myself there. We've also seen it from Oklahoma, the Red River Valley, to Texas, some severe thunderstorm watches out that direction, a tornado watch up towards the I-40 to Ozarks back in western Arkansas. We are not under a watch, but we do still have a potential for some thunderstorms to be severe. We've already had a few this afternoon and evening here. We've got this one line of thunderstorms that have sort of congealed and are sending a lot of clouds our way. So we're going to be cloudy most of the night tonight, and we're starting to see some of those stronger winds cycling back up within this thunderstorm. So as we see on the southern end where it's not in the severe thunderstorm warning, that's what we were talking about, how the outflow sort of outruns the storm and winds up weakening it. So everything behind it here is non-severe. But if you trace that back up into the thunderstorm, it's right in line with the actual rain shaft. So that means that whatever outflow is happening is going straight up into producing that thunderstorm, and it could be producing some severe winds with that as well. I wanted to bring back in Chief Meteorologist Trevor Burchett here, trying to get some boxes. We got a new toy over here that we can control everything for ourselves. But, Trevor, this thunderstorm has cycled back up.
Yeah.
It started to sort of split that severe wind, but could still be causing some damage.
For sure. And Kit, just to fill you in and also fill folks on our stream in, what we're going to do here in just a little bit, we are watching... I think there we go. All right, so we are watching Dancing with the Stars right now. What we're going to do is the next time they go to commercial break, we're going to hop onto television for a little bit and just let those folks know that we're watching this. We're going to keep them updated. We're not going to take up their whole show, but we're going to pop in for a couple of minutes during the break and then come back. So here in just a little bit, you might see the stream go to black for a second. You'll see the open play. We'll talk for a couple of minutes to TV. We'll run the open again, and then we'll be right back. So it's kind of a behind-the-scenes look, if you will. If you do see us pop to black for just a little bit, just stay with us. We are not going to go too far, but I did want to keep you updated on that because as much as we don't want to interrupt someone's show, we do want to at least pop into the commercial break and let them know what is going on. So Andrew in the back is just going to let me know when we're coming up on that commercial break. And then if you're watching on the stream, you might see things go in and out just a little bit, but stick with us. We're not going anywhere, but you might just see a little behind the scenes action here in just a little bit. So we're keeping an eye on Dancing with the Stars, get some judging in right now, so it looks like they could be coming up on a commercial break soon. We'll keep an eye on that. But again, definitely an intense thunderstorm crossing Interstate 55. We have been timing that out for the last little bit as it was moving off to the east and southeast, crossing I-55 right now, the strongest part of the thunderstorm, and then eventually into Tipton County. This warning does include a portion of northern Shelby County, but I do think this is going to be more, at least the highest winds will probably stay a little bit more into Tipton County as we watch this. But again, we're still going to get some heavy rain, likely some storms in Tipton County and Shelby County. Looks like we're going to break here, so we'll stand by. We'll be ready to go on air. All right, thank you for... All right, I will get you back to Dancing with the Stars. I promise you, I'm not going to take up a minute of it, but I'm Chief Meteorologist Trevor Burchett. I want to hop on during this break and let you know we are tracking a severe thunderstorm warning. This includes southern Mississippi County in Arkansas, Tipton County, Tennessee, and far northern Shelby County. We have a pretty rough storm here crossing Interstate 55 through Mississippi County. It is packing a punch. High wind gusts in here, 50 to 60 miles an hour, and also the potential of some very heavy rain and some thunder and lightning. So again, we do have that severe thunderstorm warning. We have more storms on the way as well that could be packing a little bit more of a punch as we keep an eye on things through the rest of the evening. Right now, this is the only one that's severe. I'll time it out here. Osceola by about 7:58, Shelby Forest at 8:17, Covington at 8:37, Ripley, Tennessee at 8:47, Arlington by about 9 o'clock, Blue Oval City by 9:07, and Brownsville at 9:18. So that is moving its way into West Tennessee. Again, like I promised you, we'll get you back to Dancing with the Stars, but I do want to let you know our coverage is continuous right now on ABC 24+. You can find that on our website or app. You can also download it on your smart TV for Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. We're also streaming on Facebook, wherever you are. And of course, our next newscast coming up at 10 p.m. For now, we'll send you back to Dancing with the Stars. Our coverage continues now on ABC 24+. All right, hopefully did not make those people too upset. I think we only took up a commercial break there, so that is good. I actually got out in time for the rest of the commercial break. How about that? But again, thank you for staying with us here on the live stream. I'm Chief Meteorologist Trevor Burchett alongside meteorologist Kit Thomas. We'll continue our coverage here on ABC 24+. And Kit, now that I've kind of handled that TV side of things, storm's still strong, and it's coming up on the river here. Not too long. We just did the storm track for the folks on TV, but not too many signs that this storm is weakening, at least not for right now.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see some of that cycling that we were talking about, and it's starting to spread into sort of another...
Okay, I think we lost your mic over there.
We should
There
be.
you go.
There we are. Hello. 1, 2, 3. I got to do the mic checks every single time here. Now, of course, we've started to see some of that evolution of the thunderstorm where we've had a couple of those trade-offs in the spreading of those severe winds. So I want to take you to that right now. This is now headed towards the Kaiser and Marie area right there, either side of Interstate 55 here. So we're getting a new scan in, and it's actually dropped back down for a little less than severe winds across much of the area. But if we just roll it back here over the last couple of scans, we've seen some of those very strong winds cycling through this area. So the Dias area, there were some winds that were showing up near 70 miles per hour at one moment, and then now it's started to weaken a little bit, but it has spread. We're seeing a little more of those strong winds, likely in excess of 58 miles per hour, right there between Kaiser and Marie at this moment. So overall, we're still seeing that line of storms, or this single storm, pushing east, and it's starting to build up a little more north. Even though that severe thunderstorm warning box is oriented more towards the southeast, it may be starting to develop on the northern side. So if you're in Osceola, you're technically just outside of the warning, but I want you to be aware. Go ahead and get to your safe place, as these severe thunderstorm winds could certainly still expand to that area. That's one of the things they do. When they hit the ground, they smack into it and spread out. You can also see some of the damage can be very fan-like structure, and that winds up leading to some pretty widespread damage. And you've got all of these trees that are lined up parallel. They're fanning outwards from each other. And that's one of the key differences between a tornado, is it actually twists in a tornado versus straight line winds fan out. We're not seeing any rotation with this either. We would need to be seeing something very red in this quadrant here, possibly with the green on that side, for it to actually be any sort of rotation. And we don't have any of that at this moment. What we do have is a new scan in. I want to pop some of the pixels on screen here just so we can get a sense of how strong these winds are at this moment. Looking like it's probably up around 60 miles per hour, 59, both of those. So right around that severe threshold. So it is certainly going to be producing some strong winds. Even 50 mile per hour winds can do damage, but we see the more significant damage coming in once we get up to that severe limit at around 55 miles or 58 miles per hour. National Weather Service also mentioning that it still has a good rear inflow jet, and you can kind of see where we've got that. Some of these brighter areas of green, you can see that we've got the stronger winds on those sides here. And that's sort of where we have a bit of a lull in the middle here. I've got the arrow key versus the line key here. But you've got that area, that zone right there. So that's sort of the wake of this. If you've ever been in a boat and you see sort of the wake behind the boat, that's what's happening behind this right now. We're starting to see some of the inflow of that producing some weaker winds and some stronger winds, and that's what's pushing this forward. If we zoom things back out, you can really tell over the last few minutes here, we've seen this area of thunderstorms. Let's just go all the way back a full hour here. From Jonesboro and Harrisburg, where we had the initial severe thunderstorm warning, and then we pushed that forward, and you can really see as we got those stronger winds, it started to turn into more of a bow echo, and that bow echo is a classic signature for straight line winds and likely straight line wind damage. So we can see that we go all the way back to here, and it's pretty much a straight line. And then we go forward and it's pushing that outwards. So this is going to be likely a more long-lasting storm, and that may still push forward to the Covington area. Millington, Ripley may see some strong winds there. And if it holds together, which it seems like it's trying to, this may be something we have to track all the way into the Brownsville and Somerville area. At that point, it may change sort of its characteristics, and it might evolve into something else. It might split. Still a lot of unknowns, but whenever we're tracking these kinds of single thunderstorms that are pushing through, they can tend to have some long-lasting characteristics to them. Meanwhile, here around the Memphis area, we do have a thunderstorm around the Fraser neighborhood there. A couple pops of lightning starting to rumble in. So if you're hearing some close rumbles of thunder, This isn't the severe thunderstorm. This is just one that's popped up here in the last 45 minutes or so. This was actually around Marion, Arkansas, just a little while ago. And this is sort of the first outflow we see. We've got two outflow boundaries that are showing up, and outflow boundaries are basically the exhale of a thunderstorm that can sometimes kick off another one as they ride under some pretty warm and moist air. So we have one here that's pretty much east to west. But then we have the outflow from the thunderstorm that's been producing the severe winds south from Turl back into St. Francis County. We have this next one. So I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere here west of West Memphis, where these two outflow boundaries collide, we may see another thunderstorm get sort of spawned in that area. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, because that might actually pose more of a hazard for Memphis proper to see some heavy rainfall here pretty soon. Let's send things over to our chief meteorologist, Trevor Burchett. Of course, both of us are still in here. He's pulling some extra hours this evening to keep some extra footage. You got the flash lightning right there.
Crazy view
right on
now.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, trying to catch up on my watch here. Looks like in the middle of all of this, we now have a child abduction emergency coming in. So all kind of stuff going on right now. We'll get you an update on that coming up on the news at 9. But this is a live look outside in Midtown right now. This is from Memphis. And a lot of the lightning that we're seeing, I think it's from that little cell that popped up on that outflow that Kit was showing you. Not the one that's severe. I think that maybe is some of the lightning we're getting back in the distance. But there is a new little storm cell not far from Marion right now that is producing some decent lightning as well. So as we're watching this, I mean, man, that is just an incredible show there. And again, you're looking from Midtown toward the north and west out of Memphis. So this is looking across the river into Arkansas. That's where we're seeing that thunder and lightning right now, hearing the thunder, seeing the lightning, and that storm getting closer and closer to the river right now. So we'll watch that. We'll keep an eye on that camera as the storms get a little bit closer. Obviously some intense lightning, but I do just kind of want to do a big recap here. If you're just joining us, again, we just kind of did an update on television a bit ago, so we might have some folks joining us off of that. I want to reset the scene for everybody. North Mississippi, pretty quiet right now. There's a little cell just south of Arca-Butler that seems like it's trying to pop up. But really the heaviest cell right now is what's in northeast Arkansas, Mississippi County, Arkansas, into northern Crittenden County. That storm has been the problem child so far. It's producing high wind gusts of 60 miles an hour as it's crossing I-55. Very heavy rain and high wind between Turl and Blytheville right now on 55. And then storms continuing to develop back behind that through Cross County, and then more storms north of Little Rock that are going to be coming in. So this is kind of setting up the way these storms will be hitting the same area over and over. Definitely a flooding concern as well. That's one of our biggest concerns right now, especially on those roadways. Could see some ponding out there. But there are also some thunderstorms bubbling up ahead of the severe thunderstorm right now. So what we'll do is we'll get an update on the strongest storm. And of course, that is the one that has the severe thunderstorm warning on it from near Blytheville, which is right behind my banner up here, all the way down 55 to Turl. That storm means business. Very high winds in there, 50 to 60 miles an hour. That is crossing the river right now. So Tipton County, even down toward Millington, far northern Shelby County, and Lauderdale County, all heads up for you because heavy rain and high wind gusts are coming in. Not a tornado concern. No reason to be worried about that right now, but this is all very, very high wind gusts, and that's why we're kind of giving you that extra heads up. It does look like they are going to keep the warning going as it gets ready to cross the river. So I'll time this out just for the next little bit. Now, bear in mind, we have a new storm that's popped up right over Shelby Forest. So we're already seeing rain there, but I'm also tracking the main line of storms, and that's in Osceola pretty much right now. Jericho by 8:20, Shelby Forest at 8:26, Covington at 8:37, Ripley at 8:51, that's Ripley, Tennessee, Mason, Tennessee at 9:05, Arlington at 9:11, Brownsville at 9:20. And again, like Kit mentioned, that's if it holds together. We'll see if this thing weakens any, but it seems like for right now, it's maintaining its intensity. Maybe a little outflow starting to show, and that would indicate maybe some weakening on the way soon. But for right now, a very strong, very potent storm with high winds coming across the river. Northern Shelby County, Tipton, Lauderdale counties, maybe even Haywood County going to face the brunt of this thunderstorm that is coming across right now. I will zoom in here and just show you this new little storm that's popped up. This is in northern portions, northwest portions of Shelby County, right over Shelby Forest pretty much. There's Fraser, some heavy rain, gusty wind in there as you head up toward Millington. And again, some lightning starting to develop with this one as well, indicating a strengthening storm. Nothing too crazy out of that, but definitely a couple of strikes in there. Also notice we've got a strike of lightning way over in Raleigh where it's not even raining yet. That's what we call a bolt from the blue. Lightning can strike 10 miles away from a thunderstorm. So if you are close enough to hear the thunder, you're close enough for that lightning to jump out and hit you. So anywhere in Shelby County, even if it's not raining where you are, if you're hearing the thunder from that storm, you are definitely close enough to potentially be struck by lightning. So again, Weather Service kind of talking about just what I was, is that very obvious outflow boundary, that green line that is ahead of the thunderstorms. We'll get a little sciencey here, and Kit might do a better job of this than I will, but I will try my best. These outflow boundaries, what happens is the cool air from inside the storm starts to rush out. And at some points, they can rush ahead of the storm. Well, that can sometimes do the storm in, because the storms are looking for that warm, humid air to ingest up into the thunderstorm. That's what they feed off of. So the cold air that's coming down, if you've ever felt a cool gust of wind ahead of a thunderstorm, that's probably that outflow boundary. The issue is, if the outflow winds run ahead of the storm loses that warm air, that energy to feed off of. So when you start to see that gust of wind rushing ahead of the thunderstorm, it could mean the storm's about to kind of die itself off. We'll have to watch. But the reason we're seeing that on the radar is it's just a high gust of wind, picking up leaves, twigs and things like that blowing around. So the radar can actually pick it up there as those winds are rushing out ahead of the storm. So when you see those lines on the radar, those can often indicate that the main storm might be weakening here soon. Now, what it can also do is help other storms to pop up. I think that's what sparked this one earlier. We had an initial outflow boundary from the north. That one sparked up. This one, as it moves to the south, could help other storms to develop. I think Kit was mentioning earlier in Crittenden County, we could easily see another storm pop up from that as it continues to move to the south and east. So kind of a situation we're going to watch here. Again, we're not necessarily concerned about any tornado potential tonight, not necessarily the setup that we would look for that, but more so a heavy rain, gusty wind, thunder and lightning potential. And we're going to see more storms pumping in overnight tonight. Kit, here in just a little bit, if you want to go back to that kind of futurecast mode and show us what's coming. I know the models are kind of back and forth on how exactly this transpires, but as these storms are rolling in, again, we're kind of getting an idea of what the timing is going to look like. I would say over the next 2 to 3 hours, we'll have the potential for gusty winds. And then overnight, those storms will start to lose a little more intensity. Now, they will still be heavy. You might still hear some thunder, some loud claps that might wake you up. But I think as far as the severe weather concern and the very high wind gust, I would say that concern starts to come down by about 11 o'clock or so. We'll see how that pans out. But that's just what the models have been indicating. So this round will ramp down closer to midnight, maybe some showers overnight, but the severe weather potential weekends. Looks like we're mostly dry to start tomorrow. And then as Kit Thomas will show you, there's another round of storms likely to develop kind of on the backside of this tomorrow afternoon and evening that could also be a little bit stronger. And those will also bear keeping an eye on as well, Kit.
Yeah, certainly a thing to keep an eye on. The next couple of days, it's really just today and tomorrow.
Yep.
Then once we get into Thursday, that's when things really start to clear out for us.
For sure.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that hour-by-hour forecast here. Now, notice this is not quite showing where the storms are presently, but if we push this forward, it does start to show that we've got a few more thunderstorms possible later on into the evening around the Memphis area. And then as we go forward, we see less and less rainfall by tomorrow morning. By daybreak, everything should be cleared up for us, but we might still see some pop-up thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. It's just out of view of this particular model here. But if we take another model look here, we've got a few that we can look at to get sort of a better sense of what the atmosphere is trying to do. Some have different equations to put things together. But as we look forward on this one has a bad case for the timing, but it does have a good location representation. So if we just sort of think that maybe it's off by only a few hours here, maybe this is what we should be seeing right about now. So 1 a.m. is about 5 hours from here. So we're going to, in our heads, just take everything about 5 hours back from what the model says. So the Memphis area may still have another thunderstorm by around 10 p.m. to midnight here. So around the 11 o'clock time frame, taking 5 hours off of there. Then as we push forward through the overnight into the wee hours of the morning, it's be 1, 2 a.m., things would be clearing up out of the Memphis area. Still some thunderstorms maybe to our east. And maybe in the pre-dawn hours here, we might have some thunderstorms still forming across southern middle Tennessee into southwestern Tennessee as well. As we get into tomorrow, we could have another round for some potential for some thunderstorms. As we get into that 10 p.m. time frame there, we've got some more of those storms off to the north around the same areas where we've had them right now, the Boot Heel into Mississippi County there. If we're still taking off the timing of it, it might switch a little bit into tomorrow. It'd still be into the afternoon, evening time frame with those storms. Then overnight into Thursday, we really get that northern wind to settle in. That's going to clear out all of the rain. That's going to clear out the heat, and it's going to make it feel absolutely wonderful as we get into the next few days here. It'll feel like low 80s, finally going to feel more like fall with lots of sunshine as we head into the end of the week. In the meantime, though, we could still have some severe weather. That's a given, as we've got that happening right now. But it's also the factor of the flash flood threat that we've got. We've got a level 2 risk across much of our area. The farther south you go, the less rain we're expecting, so less chance for that flash flooding. But that's another factor that we're talking about with these storms. Still plenty of heat to work with as well. The temperatures are in the 80s, the dew points are in the 70s, so it's pretty muggy out there. Plenty of moisture, plenty of heat here for these thunderstorms to work with. Of course, whenever we get into nocturnal events, usually when we lose the sun, we lose the heat and thunderstorms begin to die off. But with this one in particular, we've got that boundary that's to our north. I'll put it here on this map here. Somewhere in this vicinity, we've got this boundary, and it might be a little farther south already. That's sort of a focusing mechanism. South of the boundary, we've had some pretty decent winds out of the south. And then we've got much higher level, upper level winds riding along the boundary here. So that's creating just enough to keep that lift going, keep those thunderstorms producing. And we look at the winds here. Of course, we've got that southerly wind, like I mentioned, and that's pulling in all of those stronger characteristics for these thunderstorms. One thing I want to get back to the radar for here now is the storms are starting to cross due north of the radar site, and that's where we run into a little bit of trouble. If you remember back to trigonometry, you might remember your opposite over adjacent and all that. This is what we're running into right now with these thunderstorms. Since they are moving laterally from west to east, we've got that west to east component versus the radar. It has to look in just one direction out from a pivoting point. And right now it's pretty much running perpendicular to the radar beam. So we can't really calculate what the winds are because it's either sine or cosine. I forget. My Mr. Grimes would be mad at me. But basically the angle negates it and we can't read how fast those winds are. So once it gets to the Covington area, that may be when we start to see some better chances for some of those winds to be picked up by the radar when we have a better angle on it versus being perpendicular to the radar beam at this moment. So we're kind of in a blind spot right now with the radar, but still letting the warning go until 8:15 according to the National Weather Service. The outflow may collide in western Shelby County, and that might cause a brief uptick in that wind speed as well and some of the strength of that updraft too. So we've got that whole complex of storms there north of the West Memphis area up towards Jericho, Turrell. We still have that outflow boundary in that dark shaded green area here right along there. That's the outflow boundary. of where it sort of exhaled. And like Trevor was saying perfectly earlier, we've got that cold pool of air that's just rushed out ahead of this versus up here to the north. You can kind of see, Trevor, almost it looks like it's starting to have a gust front leading it now, just right there on the southern end of the storm. So that may be where we're starting to see some weakening around the Golden Lake. If you're in Golden Lake, you might say, hey, it's raining cats and dogs right now. It doesn't feel like it's weakening, but at least on the leading edge, it's showing signs of some weakening. My only concern is up here on the northern end where it starts to curl back inwards. Occasionally, not every time, but occasionally that can be an environment for tornadoes to spin up. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that. Just looking at the velocity though, it doesn't look like it's quite pulling in that rotation that sometimes happens there, but we do still see some converging winds here. Of course, we've got that strong wind out of the west here, and we've got a little bit of a wind maybe with a more inbound component there. That could wrap up into a tornado. It's not often, it's not something we can see very clearly on radar, but when it does happen, we'll let you know if it does happen. For right now, this is still just a straight line wind threat. If we look back over the last several scans here, going back about 30 minutes, right on the other side of Interstate 55 is where we saw the peak, but then we were running into that angle issue of the radar where we can't quite see it. But certainly an impressive rear inflow jet with this. You can see pretty clearly on the map here where we've just got that sort of wake inlet there of where all those winds are pushing in really quickly. Certainly a strong straight line wind event. This is different from what we had back in the spring. If you remember, we had a lot of tornado events, but right now we're not really in a tornadic environment. There's just not enough upper level support here across the Mid-South. There has been some better support back to our west across parts of Arkansas. There was a better chance for some tornadoes that direction today. I actually wonder if they've had any tornado reports in that direction. I don't see any tornado reports there, severe reports. They've had some hail, it looks like, some strong winds, lots of hail across the Red River Valley there. But here across the Mid-South, we haven't had any reports. One thing you can do, though, is let us know. Send us your severe weather reports if you've got downed trees, downed power lines, anything like that. Let us know. We've got a Facebook page going right now where we have a comments thread that you can let us know in there if you've seen any severe thunderstorms, severe damage from these thunderstorms. And just we'll relay those on to the National Weather Service as well. But overall, we're trying to keep a close eye on things here in-house on our live stream and on Facebook and on YouTube. So we appreciate you watching on all those platforms as well. It looks like the National Weather Service may be getting ready to let this expire, Trevor. So we'll see if here in the next 4 minutes we let this thunderstorm go its own way. But of course, we're getting into a better situation with the radar angle in the next few minutes here as well.
Yeah, we'll stick with it for a couple of more minutes and just see what they do. I mean, we do still have that severe thunderstorm warning that we've been telling you about, but we do want to get an update on some of the other storms going on in other parts of the Mid-South. North Mississippi, pretty quiet right now. There's a little shower in far western Tate County. Nothing crazy going on down there. We have these storms that are kind of building back along that stationary front that we were just kind of talked about. It does look like they are going to let that warning expire at 8:15. So we will not have a warning after this, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But just kind of show you where this front is and why we're seeing what we're seeing. We've got that front kind of draped across the Mid-South right now. It's almost acting like train tracks and just pumping storms in. So over the next several hours, we're going to see more storms rolling through the Mid-South. As we get further into the overnight hours, they will lose a lot of their intensity. Still could be some loud thunder, still could be some heavy rain, but I think we're going to see our severe weather potential go further and further down as we get further into the night, and then it'll just be some isolated rain showers as we look further on. We'll go ahead and zoom in up here to northwest Tennessee. Things have quieted down a lot in Dyersburg and Blytheville. This storm is going to miss y'all to the south. This storm is going to be more toward Ripley, Lauderdale County, Tipton County, and northern Shelby County. Again, we had a severe thunderstorm warning on it That has been let go. Winds not looking as impressive as they did maybe a bit ago, but still a very strong thunderstorm and some additional storms building out ahead of that. We have storms right now near Shelby Forest and Millington, down through Turl, and all of that is pushing to the east. We also have storms behind this that are building in that are all also pushing to the east. So I think just about everybody in Memphis and Shelby County is going to see some rain. If you have not recently, this might be your time to get it, because I think everybody in the metro is going to see some decent rain. I think that's really the biggest thing we have to worry about. Heavy rain potential, maybe some gusty winds, 50 miles an hour or so, and a lot of thunder and lightning that might keep you up a little later than usual this evening. All of this still moving at pretty much the same clip, right about 30 miles an hour to the east. So I'm just going to track out this whole line of thunderstorms all the way back into Wynn and Forest City. Just give you a general idea of when the heaviest storms could be near you. That would be in Atoka by about right now, 8:19. Covington at 8:29. I know you've already seen some rain in Covington. This is the heaviest part of the storm, though, by 8:29. Forest City at about 8:35. Ripley, Tennessee at about 8:44. Bartlett at 8:53. We've got some storms already developing ahead of the main line. That would put it in Bartlett by about 8:53. Central Gardens at 9:08. Memphis at 9:17. Now, our dot for Memphis is right about at the fairgrounds at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. So that would be Midtown-ish. Could be a couple of extra minutes if you're in East Memphis. Westwood at 9:32. Germantown at 9:43. And then eventually could reach Bolivar closer to 10 o'clock. So we'll watch how this line progresses as it merges around. Kit, what you got over there? Midtown camera. Let's do that then. Got a second set of eyes. Always love that. Wow. Yeah, so that will be the leading edge of, it looks like that little thunderstorm that's developed. Could be a little bit of outflow boundary action in there too. But a very impressive looking sky in Midtown and downtown Memphis right now. Kit, I'll tell you what, why don't you take this over, talk about that a little bit, and see what you're seeing over there as this storm kind of comes a little closer to Midtown. Definitely a spooky view that we are seeing right there right now.
Yeah, anytime we see one of these outflow boundaries at night, especially with the city lights, it always has that very ominous look.
Lightning behind it too.
Yeah, so this is what that green line we were looking at that's leading ahead of the thunderstorm. That's basically what we see when we have a very humid atmosphere. Sometimes these outflow boundaries are pretty much invisible. It's all about what it can pick up, and if it can pick up a lot of moisture and lift it enough to produce a cloud, then that's what we see. We see these big arcs of cloud that just roll through. Sometimes they can have some very, very ominous characteristics. Sometimes they can be very cool to look at as well. That's certainly a cool one to see this evening here. I want to take you to radar so you can see exactly where that outflow boundary is, and it's coming right here over the Midtown area. It looks like it's this quick little boundary there. So we actually just switched over to the terminal Doppler. It looks like it's the outflow from that storm that was kicked off by an outflow boundary. So we're sort of on a second tier, a second order outflow boundary. So what we were looking at earlier, we had this, let me just back this up, go back 2 hours here. We back it up there. We've got this line that starts to show up here around 7:50 on the terminal Doppler radar here. So it's right around there, and that's what sparked off this thunderstorm initially. So that one sparked off right along that boundary. You see that thunderstorm sparks off there. And then now we've got this new boundary here that's starting to push into the Midtown area. So that's definitely what we were seeing there. If we just switch back over to that radar, or to that camera view, you can see we've got very impressive cloud bank that's just started to show up here over the Midtown. So if you're seeing that from downtown Memphis or from the Midtown area, from East Memphis, don't worry, it's not the end times. I know the rapture was scheduled for today as well. But of course, we've got just this line of clouds that's rolling in, and that may still spark off more thunderstorms, still something to be aware of. But you can see even that it has been lifted up quite a bit. So it's lifted enough to produce a cloud, but it might lift enough to produce a bit of rainfall as well. So we've got this little spot right there on President's Island of some of the yellow shade showing up, and that usually indicates rainfall. Sometimes it just means it's got a lot of dense debris in the atmosphere, or a lot of birds will show up sometimes in that yellow shade, but that might actually be a little bit of rain getting produced in this quick little outflow cloud that showed up here just recently. So certainly a lot of heavy rainfall coming up across our northern viewing area here. Of course, none of the little droplets come out of that little cloud there is going to do much, but out towards the Atoka area, it looks like we've got some heavy rain moving into your area very soon. I want to just rewind. You might have had some rain already. Yeah, just a quick shower right around 50 minutes ago, but a very heavy rainfall band is about to come in. So from the Drummonds area into Atoka there, that's where we've got some of the heaviest rainfall at the moment. This is very close to the radar, so you can see very, very low. We've got some of these pinks and purples showing up here of this very heavy rainfall, and that's right there, only a couple hundred feet above the surface. Usually when we're seeing these colors, it's showing up as potential for some hail. I don't think we've got much hail with this thunderstorm right now. If we just loop this over the last hour, we've seen a couple pockets of maybe some dime-sized hail at the very most. That'd be just about a ½ inch in diameter, but I think most of this has been pea-size or just some very heavy rain that's showing up as well. So overall, it's been just a straight line wind threat, not so much of a tornado threat or a hail threat for that matter. So that's some good news with that. We can take at least that as a favorable omen for the day today. Of course, it looks like that area of extreme winds has really started to tamp down over the last few minutes here. The last few scans we saw around 7:30, it really ramped back up, and that's when we had that new severe thunderstorm warning issued, especially into Mississippi County there. That's where we had some of those stronger winds, and then as it crossed over I-55, we got a bad angle on the storm, but it also is starting to cross over that angle now. You can sort of see right there in the shade of red, that bowing leading edge of the storm. If we just trace it back from memory, we've certainly gotten that bow echo to push forward, and it's certainly getting into better view. I also see this little area there. That's always concerns whenever we see a little bit of that green and red laterally there. Just to cross-reference with where it is on radar, it's within an updraft, so we do have perhaps a little bit of a rotating updraft there. Trevor, if you're seeing that right there between Ripley and Covington, keeping an eye on that. I don't think it's going to be anything major at the moment, but still something that we need to be aware of. Sometimes we can have a tornado just pop up real quick. They can happen, so you always want to be cautious of that. But we'll keep a close eye on that with that next scan overall. As we look down towards the Memphis area, though, we've got a couple of those outflow boundaries, as I mentioned. Not getting any rainfall at the moment from these thunderstorms here. Just to the north of the Memphis area, Memphis proper staying dry at the moment. South Haven, Olive Branch, Byhalia might eventually get some rainfall, but at least at this moment, it doesn't look like that's happening for us. You can also see behind this, or on the northern side of this, just the widespread, very light rain that's in there. This is the good soaking rain that we desperately need around this area. So we've had the heavy rain. Heavy rain all at once isn't good for a drought, because when we get into a drought, all of the soil tends to compact. And then it's like a very dry sponge. Whenever you grab the sponge off the kitchen sink, you've got to set it under the water and squeeze it and massage it for a couple seconds before it can really absorb the water. That's what happens with soils. Whenever we have a drought, it starts to compact, it starts to fill with air and starts to get pressed down. And then it can't absorb when the rain finally gets back in here. So you need a light rain that just soaks in. It's gentle enough that it can work its way in between the soil. But heavy rain can run right off of that because it acts sort of as concrete and just rolls away and doesn't actually help us out. So it's good to see that on the northern side, we've got some of the lighter rain and the greens and yellows there across the areas that we've seen the drought really expand over the last couple of weeks here. Just so we can see where I'm talking about, we've had that extreme drought settle in around the Dyersburg area up into the Boot Heel, almost into Kentucky a little bit as well. Memphis proper, we're under the severe drought. Still desperately need the rain here, but not quite as extreme as it is up towards northwestern Tennessee. Overall, though, things are starting to quiet down. Peak wind gust at an observation site near that thunderstorm that had the warning was 45 knots. So that's right around 50 miles per hour. 52-ish probably. Overall, it doesn't. One other thing you can look at is sort of the darkness of that convection of the dark reds. And sometimes if it's not quite as bright as it was and it's starting to be weaker and weaker rain, that's sometimes an indication that this storm is weakening as well. So that's hopefully what we're seeing here. I'm going to send things back over to Trevor now. Trevor, is there anything else you've been seeing around your neck of the woods?
Nothing over here that you haven't already touched on. I did just want to get another quick update. I think we'll stay on stream for maybe until 8:30, just so that'll give us a little time to stop and get ready for the 9 p.m. newscast on CW. So we'll take a quick break, and then of course the newscast will be on anyway. But as of right now, we do not have any severe weather happening in the Mid-South. Like we talked about earlier, to be considered a severe thunderstorm warning, you need winds of 58 miles an hour or hail of at least 1 inch. So the storms have weakened a little bit below that limit, but we still have winds of 50 miles an hour. So just because we don't have a thunderstorm warning doesn't quite mean that these storms aren't packing at least a little bit of a punch. We are getting, like Kit mentioned, some much needed rain, slow rain up in northeast Arkansas, northwest Tennessee. And really once these heavy storms pass you by, this front will start to sag to the south a little bit. So as far as severe weather concerned, kind of back in this area where the storms are clearing out and it just transitions to more of a light rain, that will kind of be what we follow for the rest of this evening and tonight. I think through about 11 o'clock, 11:30, we have the risk of some really heavy storms, maybe some high wind gusts. But once we get closer to the midnight hour into the overnight, could be some heavy rain, could be some loud thunder, but nothing that would be too concerning for us, at least until tomorrow afternoon when the storms pop back up. For what we're watching right now, again, we do not have any weather alerts in effect. No warnings because we have not met the criteria of 58 mile an hour winds to have them. But we are still seeing very, very heavy rainfall. And again, the winds are still high, even if they aren't at that severe limit. Looking up in Lauderdale County, Tipton County, I know a lot of my Facebook followers in Lauderdale County have been hoping for some rain. Good little cell right south of Ripley along Highway 51 between Ripley and Covington. And then beyond that, you'll get the main storm that's coming in. This is the one that was producing very high wind gusts back near Kaiser earlier. Those winds have come down a little bit, but still very heavy rain through Tipton County and Lauderdale County. That'll progress all the way through the county over the next little bit, and then eventually toward Brownsville here pretty soon. Northern Shelby County starting to get it as well. Shelby Forest over to Millington, even a little bit of Raleigh and Fraser seeing some heavy thunderstorm activity now too. Winds in there 30 to 40 miles an hour. But the biggest thing right now in Shelby County is just the heavy rain, the rain that we desperately need that'll help us out at least a little bit. That's mainly north of I-40 in Shelby County with this particular batch. But there's another storm coming in from the west. It's back near Wynn and Parkin right now in Arkansas. Heavy rain and some lightning, gusty wind there too. That's probably going to get the rest of Shelby County. So if you're dry right now, I know the northern half of Shelby County is seeing heavy rain, gusty wind and thunder. The rest of us will get it a little bit later, and that could even tap down into DeSoto County. These storms do have a little bit of a southerly component to them. I'm going to put a track on, once again, the heaviest of the thunderstorms. Now, bear in mind, storms are popping up ahead of this, so the timing could fluctuate just a little bit. But just in general, we'll time this out here over the next 2 hours or so as it moves off to the east and eventually to the south and east. That'll put it near Covington pretty much right now, starting to get the leading edge of it. Bartlett in just a couple of minutes. West Memphis, I know the north side of West Memphis is seeing the rain. The rest of West Memphis will see some by about 9 o'clock. Brownsville at 9:10, Somerville at 9:19, and then into Memphis a little closer to 9:15, 9:20, 9:30 is when, if you're not seeing rain in Memphis now, probably a little closer to 9:30. 9:30, you'll be seeing some with some thunder. Could be near Walls in DeSoto County by 9:43, and then toward Jackson and Pinson, Tennessee by 10 or 10:15. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Again, for right now, we don't have any warnings in effect. This is just some good heavy rain, some gusty wind, and some thunder and lightning out there. Now, I do want you to keep an eye on the radar for the next little bit, because these storms could ramp back up. They could pack a little bit more of a punch. We could see a high wind gust. That's really the biggest concern other than the heavy rain. But for right now, it seems like the primary issue is that heavy rainfall could lead to some street flooding, especially here in the metro with that drainage system. So once this rain comes in, we could start to see some street flooding. Just be aware, turn around, don't drown. But again, heavy rain, the biggest deal with this. Loud thunder could keep you up a little bit, and the potential for a high wind gust or two here or there. And again, the National Weather Service kind of watching the same thing we are. Right now, in general, the storms are not as strong as they were a bit ago, which is good, but we'll see what happens over the next few hours. There's still a little bit of energy to work with, so I would say between now and 11 o'clock, they could start to ramp back up a little bit. But for right now, nothing too crazy. And then some more storms back to the west. Now that one, again, it's going to start to get a little bit of a southerly component to it. So that batch of heavy rain, likely a little bit more toward southeastern Arkansas and into northwestern Mississippi. So I think everybody overnight tonight is going to get their fair share of some heavy rain, some loud thunder, maybe a quick gust of wind or two that could prompt a severe thunderstorm warning. So just to recap, we'll get off the stream here in just a second, but we'll watch this for the next couple hours. Heavy rain, the biggest issue. This will tamper off after midnight. And as we get toward tomorrow morning, things trend a little bit more dry. Maybe a shower or two for your morning commute, but I think many of us wake up dry tomorrow. It's going to be midday tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon that we see storms that'll start to ramp back up just a little bit more. So one more day that we'll keep an eye on the threat of some heavy rain or some high wind gusts. So Kit, if you have anything else, now would be the time, but I think we'll go ahead and wrap up so you can get ready for this 9 o'clock newscast.
I think the only thing is to show this camera here from East Memphis. You can see right over Eastgate Shopping Center there. There's that outflow starting to come into the frame here. But overall, I think, Trevor, you covered it. I'll let you sign us off here. All
right, well, you know what? I was going to say you can just keep it on that if you want to. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll throw you around a little bit since you've got the controls over there. Let's try Stream 1 first, and that is going to be our Midtown camera. It looks pretty dry there for right at this moment, but I promise you, if you're not seeing rain in Shelby County yet, you will be soon. It is going to be coming on in. But again, let's go back over to that East Memphis camera one more time, and we'll just set on this to sign off. Some lightning off in the distance. Storms rolling in tonight. In general, this is just some good sleeping weather. I'm not overly concerned tonight, but just be aware there is the potential for one or two storms to spark up a little bit more and maybe produce some high wind gusts. We're going to be here keeping an eye on things. We'll hop back on the stream if needed, but of course, our next regularly scheduled newscast is on Channel 30 at 9 o'clock. That's going to be streaming on ABC 24 Plus as well. That's our streaming home for Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV. We stream online. Wherever you stream, we stream. We'll have that newscast at 9 p.m. on CW 30. And then, of course, our regular ABC 24 news at 10 o'clock. Meteorologist Kit Thomas will be here with the latest updates and information. For now, though, I'm Chief Meteorologist Trevor Burchett. Enjoy this rain.